All right, good morning. Good morning, everybody. Welcome on the call, Wednesday call, 11 o'clock. We try to do this weekly, every Wednesday at 11 o'clock. So we can invite our, business owner, our clients to see how the eR3 program works and how they can, you know, save their taxes and also super fund their Roth.
Hello, Ray.
So amazing. So
Hey, I just,
Andrew,
I
I'm
Andrew,
know,
just,
yes.
yeah,
Hang
make
on,
sure
let me
you
mute.
yeah, I'm just got onto this. I've lost my.
All right, apologize, guys. So therefore, we would invite all of our guests, and I have a few CPA on the call, and financial professional on the call as well. So I appreciate that, because ultimately, what we try to do is, you know, not to, what we call in our team is not to be a jack. So what is a jack, Stan?
A jag is just another guy or just another gal with the same old, same old.
Yeah.
and that's not an Air Force attorney.
Yeah. Yeah, so we would, if we in the field and we just sound like everybody else, then we're not stand out. And matter of fact, we have set up some of the name like Black Swan Business Financial Advisor or Black Swan Financial Consultant. So it's all the cool name that kind of indicate what we are doing and helping our clients. So no further ado, I know Stefan is on, and also Sheldon is leading the way on this arena EP3 plan. So a good friend of mine, we've been working together quite some time, and we always want to be what? A black swan, because because if like I said, we do the same thing, then there's no niche or special um
You're in a
like
you're
anyone
in a
else.
red
So
ocean.
yep. So no further ado, my partner Sheldon Singleton. Sheldon.
All right. Hey, good afternoon, everybody. Sheldon Singleton here. People say, what is a black swan? Black swans are real. They are in Australia. So go on the internet and you'll look up black swans and you will see them, because at one point in time, they didn't think black swans were real. And then there's black swan events, and COVID was a black swan event. 9/11 was a black swan event. Also, 2008 was a black swan event. And those events changed systems. But our black swans, in the negative way, but our black swans, the reason we call it our black swan tax unit, black swans, is because we have very unique, rare strategies that you'll never hear about unless you walk in the right circles. So one of the things this eR3 enhanced Roth Reinsurance Retirement Plan, that's why they call it eR3. We call it the tax unicorn because this strategy is very rare. And just to tell you a little bit about my background, because some people know me on this call, that belongs to Newport Beach Chamber. We've been seeing
Cutting out,
years.
Sheldon.
Electrical. Oh, I'm cutting out.
You're better now, but
Mhm.
you're frozen right now.
Can you hear me?
Yep, now we
Oh, okay.
can.
Frozen. Okay, that is wild. Okay. Maybe it's the internet in this area is weak. Am I okay now?
Yeah, you are right now.
Yep, you
Okay,
got.
cool, cool. All right, excellent. Um, I don't know what you heard. Well, I've been licensed for 30 years in financial services industry. Can't find that right now. Um, 30 years in the financial services industry. I had a phone call coming in. 30 years in the financial services industry, was an engineer for 22 years, have an MBA degree, and I've been in the alternative space for over 10 years. And when I seen this strategy, it blew me away, and I had to wrap my head around it. And when Stefan, the tax attorney right here, as you can see Stefan right here, he explained it to me, I had to hear this strategy about 3 times. And then they had a recording, which I've listened to over 13 times to really start to get it into my head. So here's the way I explain it, because somebody asked, what is a great way to explain this? Which people pull out their business cards all the time. I say, imagine what if there was a strategy, and this is the key word, strategy, where you can use a Roth IRA, a Roth 401k, make it tax deductible on the front end. You can put unlimited amounts of money into it, and it's tax free on the back end. And I say it's a strategy, and people's minds are blown when I say that. And when me and Stefan are explaining to you, we're taking 2 different strategies, one that's been around since the 1600s and one that's been around since 1986. And these very ingenious, out of the box professionals, tax and corporate insurance professionals, married this together, and it was ingenious. And this is why whenever I tell people that 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 advertisement what I just said, or I'm blanking out on it, they pull out their business cards and they say, I want to know more. Thank you, Bill. Elevator pitch. you know. So Stefan, won't you build upon this a little bit, what I just talked about?
And I keep finding, Stan and I were talking about this. How do I explain it? Because you're right. You have to hear this a few times. So I keep refining how I explain this. So really, there's 3 players in this. Think of it as the main operating company, and then there's the private insurance company, which is a completely separate entity. And then you've got the Roth 401k, Roth IRA, solo Roth 4. It's a Roth. It doesn't really make a difference how you got there. So there are 3 parts. And I'll come back to that Roth in a minute. But know that there's 3 players to this. So the Roth is actually the full owner, 100% owner of this private insurance company. And that's really important. And I'll come back to the reason why. So what we're doing is we're looking for additional insurable interests that a business may have. And hang on one second. I want to, do I have permission to show my screen?
Yes.
Okay. So give me a second. So what we're looking is for the additional insurable interest that a business may have. And what we're talking about is not the primary catastrophic insurance. We're not looking at property tax insurance or property insurance. We're not looking at E&O. We're not looking at vehicle insurance. And we're not looking at the primary types of insurances that a business may have that they would have with a large carrier that can weather large claims. That's not what we're looking for. What we're looking for is additional insurable interests that a business may have outside of those. Give me a sec here. I redid a bunch of stuff on my computer. Now okay, here we go. All right, I should have been a little more prepared.
I can pull it up on mine
Would
if
you
you want to.
bring up the slideshow real quick until I can find it? No, I got it. I got it.
Okay.
So these are type, can you see my screen?
No, not yet.
Okay. Let me share.
There we go. It's coming
All right.
up. There we go.
So these are the type of insurable interests that we're looking for, not at the top part here, but the bottom part. So we're looking for those actuarially determine those additional insurable risks that a business may have. So these are insurable risks that a business can insure for that would not be their normal, like above their catastrophic. So these are additional insurable interests that are just as insurable, just as deductible as their primary, the catastrophic up above. But these are the kinds of things we're looking for. So let me put some numbers to this. So let's say we have a business with a gross revenue of $10 million. And typically, a business is going to have about 10% of their gross is going to be their additional insurable interest. So, following that through, that would mean a $10 million business would typically have about $1 million of additional insurable interest. And that is actuarially determined by a third party. And that's really important. So, a lot of things that we do, we try to make sure that if the IRS wants to attack us, that we would shore up all those things that they would want to attack us for. So that's one of the reasons why our additional insurable interests are determined by a third party actuary. That's all they do. They'll determine how many of these things and even other things that are not even on this list that particular business may have that would be additional insurable premiums. Okay, so so now actuarially we determined that business typically would have about $1 million of insurable interest. So they could pen a check for $1 million of insurance premiums, and that would come off of their top line, meaning you had a $10 million business, and now that $10 million business now has it's $9 million of gross revenue that would be taxable before any expenses. So let's just keep that out of there. So you took $1 million straight off of their top line. And let's say that private insurance, as I told you, that there's the operating company, the private insurance, the check came from the main operating company and was given to the private insurance company, and that private insurance company now has $1 million in it. So let's say that private insurance company, with between ceding fees and other expenses, would have about, let's say it has about $100,000 in expenses. That would mean that private insurance company has $900,000 of profit in that private insurance company. And that could be distributed out as a dividend. Now, I told you before, the 100% owner of that private insurance is the Roth. So where do you think we're going to drop that $900,000 of premiums, not premiums, but dividends? We're going to drop that into the Roth 401k. So now that money's sitting in the Roth 401k. So a lot of people will ask, well, that's way above the contribution limits. This is not a contribution. This is a dividend, just very much like, if Tesla issued a really good dividend and you own Tesla stock in your Roth 401k. Very similar situation. This is a dividend. So you just dropped $900,000 into your Roth 401k.
Hey,
And
Stefan, could
yep,
you go to that the slide where it shows the diagram of how that looks?
yep. This one here.
One more. You got to go down the one after the trust. We're not a trust.
Gotcha.
That one. That's the one that shows it.
Yep. Yeah, I probably should keep this up while I'm explaining that. So this is how it flows. So from the main operating company down to the private insurance company. Private insurance company has whatever expenses it has. What's left over is the profit. And that profit, because the Roth 401k owns 100% of that private insurance company, that dividend goes into the Roth 401k. Now understand the Roth 401k is a Roth, so it has all the same rules as any other Roth. So at 59 and a half, that money distribution becomes tax-free. So in this scenario, the primary business got $1 million deduction for premiums that were paid to the private insurance company. And that private insurance company had a net profit of $900,000. And because the owner of that private insurance company is the Roth 401k, that $900,000 is now sitting in that Roth.
And that's beautiful right there. So how long has private insurance companies been around?
So private insurance companies been around in some fashion since the 1600s. So most people think of it as captive insurance, and there's other names. And I'll admit that it has gotten a bad connotation. And that's mostly because it what you're hearing about is the captive insurance is code section 831B. We do not use 831B. We are a true private reinsurance company. So we're using code section 831A. So we still follow a lot of the same rules because we want to make sure our clients are protected from audit, but we don't have the restrictions as far as capitalization. We don't have the ownership structure requirements because in an 831B, the ownership structure of the private insurance company has to mimic the ownership structure of the main operating company. In an 831A, we don't have that requirement. So this can also act as a wealth transfer plan, meaning you can have other people own shares of this private insurance company that are not related to the business at all. Meaning if you want your children to have ownership, you want a relative to have ownership, anyone can own that private insurance company through their Roth 401k. It does not have to mimic the original ownership structure of the original business like an 831B does. So
Yeah,
it can
because I know. Oh, go on.
good. So it can be a wealth transfer plan as well.
Yes, and that's one of the things I like the most about this plan is because I got introduced to captives about 10 years ago, and then I got books on captive insurances. And one of my mentors in the alternative space, he had a captive set up, and he was just dumping a lot of money into it. And that's what got my attention
Yeah.
because it reduced his business risk. He created in private insurance to reduce his captive, reduce his business risk. But then, as I learned from you all, that it was more restrictive than what this plan is.
It's more restrictive, and also it think of the difference between the two, the 831A and the 831B. Think of an 831B as like an IRA plan. You can defer that tax, but somewhere down the road you've got to pay that tax. And then the 831A, with the eR3 plan, it is in a Roth 401k. So at age 59 and a half, never to be taxed again. So you can see the difference between the two here. This right here, this column right here is the 831B after tax, meaning you got to pay that tax somewhere down the road versus no tax ever at age 59 and a half. And you could see there's about a $1.5 million difference between the two, and that's the difference between tax deferral and tax-free. Here you can see it on a chart. You can see the $1.5 million difference. And the difference between the two, putting everything else being the same, investing the same amount of money, everything else is exactly the same. The difference between these two is the difference between tax deferral and tax-free. At tax-free, it's going to end up being about $1.5 million more in that account in 20 years than it would be if you were using an 831B and deferring that tax.
And then here's something else I learned as I gotten used to being introduced to this specific circle is have any of you ever gotten extended warranties? So Stefan, what is an extended warranty? What do they use?
So an extended warranty, and the reason why this is the extended warranties, a lot of different industries use it, but the most prominent is the car sales industry. Car sales industry, you notice when you buy a car, they're always pushing that car warranty, and they know it's very predictable. So they know that only about 30% of the time is someone going to file a claim for that car. So they know predictably at 70% of the time that there's not going to be a claim. So it's very easy to predict. And so they're willing to put money behind that, knowing it's very predictable. And I would imagine that a lot of different other industries, electronics and others, I would imagine the numbers are somewhat similar or maybe even better. Maybe
Yeah,
on a
because
smaller item, you're probably not likely to file against rather than, a car for a bigger dollar. So maybe it's more like, 20% or 15% of the time someone would file a claim. But
yeah,
that's why
because when
it's so popular because it's very predictable, from an actuarial standpoint, how often someone's likely to file a claim.
And it's a profit center, isn't it?
Big time profit center. They know predictably how often somebody's going to file a claim. I'd be curious to see some numbers on electronics industry and some of the other industries, how often someone actually files a claim. I would
Yeah,
think
because
most
we have,
people have totally forgotten that they ever bought that warranty.
that's right. And that's one of the cool things about this strategy right here, everybody, is, because like electronic stores, you go buy couches, you go to Best Buy. It's a lot of industries that are pushing extended insurance company, knowing that from an actuarial standpoint, very few people are going to use a profit, and and it's issued as a dividend.
Right.
You
So
know,
that industry loves that because they know it's very predictable profit. So
yep.
they're pushing it
So
hard.
and they push it hard because I used to work for a company. And they say, how many extended warranties have you done before? Now,
Right.
when you look at this strategy, Stefan, why? Because I had some people say, well, isn't that IRS going to get angry? When they find out about this, are they going to shut it down? Because I had people say that. And let
Well,
everybody know.
understand this is established law. This is just it's just bringing two genius ideas together. So what you're doing is taking your private insurance or captive insurance and taking all the risk factors out of it. I mean, not all of it. I mean, can I say they're never going to get audited? No, I can't say that. But what we've done is try to take all the things the IRS doesn't like. For example, IRS does not like trusts. They don't like you using trust to set up. We do not use a trust. This is set up on a Indian reservation in Oklahoma using sovereign nations rules. And the insurance commissioners on the reservation as well. So it's a sovereign nation. It's like its own country and it has its own set of rules. They don't like they don't like offshoring the money. So this is not offshoring the money. It's in Oklahoma on an Indian reservation. It's not offshored. So what we've done is taken all the things the IRS does not like about an 831B plan and gotten rid of those things. So our clients are even more protected and we don't have the cap restrictions. And the biggest thing is we don't have the disclosure requirements. We don't have to disclose to the IRS that we're doing this. So we're a private reinsurance company versus an 831B where you have to declare that. So you're increasing your chances of being audited by being an 831B, meaning a true captive insurance. This is not a true captive insurance. This is private reinsurance.
Yep. I know in the chat someone asked, are we doing this for a group of companies or this is individual companies? And also, if a company has a partnership, how does this work? And then I have to get off the Zoom in about 5 minutes because I'm leading another group. But
Gotcha.
explain that.
I mean, there is interaction because I've asked Craig and company about that before. Because I have a client that has 7 companies. And he said, that's great because now there's interaction between the companies and the insurable interest. There's now interaction between the companies. So the insurable interest for 7 companies would actually be higher than just one company alone. So can you group companies together if they have somewhat similar ownership structure? Keep in mind that Roth 401k and the Roth 401k owning that private insurance company doesn't have to have anything to do with that operating company. So can we group more than one business together? That's probably a question more for David, but I don't see that being a problem because
That's
it really
cool.
doesn't have to have anything because an 831A doesn't have to have anything to do with the ownership structure of the main operating company.
Now, what if a business owner already has a 401k? And, because I know we have participation requirements, we got discrimination requirements when
Right.
it comes to 401ks. How would you structure that?
So Roth 401k is what we're after. So we don't want to use a 401k. We want to use a Roth 401k. So because the 401k would be like the 831B plan, a deferral, versus we want the Roth 401k. So can they use an existing Roth 401k? Absolutely. We just need to have that Roth 401k buying shares in that private insurance company. So how it got there is not that important. So our system is structured for a business owner that doesn't have a Roth 401k. And a lot of businesses, they have, employees, but their employees may not participate in the Roth 401k. Like I've got the client that I told you about before, he's got employees, they somewhat participate in the 401k, but nobody participates in the Roth 401k, so he can't either. So what we do with him is we set up a solo Roth 401k. What we do is we have a certain amount of income for him as a sole proprietorship, $135,000 worth. And with that, we can fund enough to have $50,000 in his Roth 401k. With that $50,000, he's going to buy the shares, the premium shares in that private insurance company.
So what if there's someone gets a chance for auditing? Because I know in the chat it said that let me go back here and let me read it. He says, I asked for auditing purposes. I've heard of chances of an audit goes up if it's just one company self-insuring instead of paying into a plan with other companies. So what happens if an audit does come up?
Well, like I said, we've done all the due diligence on the work to make ourselves as audit proof as we can. So we've figured out what IRS doesn't like about captive insurance, and we made sure that we're not anything like that. So we've gotten rid of the things that the IRS doesn't like, and to be fair, IRS is backed down considerably on their dislike of captive insurances. They thought it was highly abused, and they've since backed down and said it's not as abused as we thought it was. But yes, there are some bad players out there. You've got people that are borrowing the money out and doing things that was never designed to do. Not to say you can't ever borrow it out or you can't invest in your own company. There's ways to do those things, but people were doing it wrong. I mean, it's like getting your big fat deduction and having your cake too. Yeah, that's not good.
Yep. Hey, could you go to the slide where it shows the industries that are
Yep.
could be target market? And here's something right here. I was talking to a banker yesterday, and we're networking. And the cool part about this strategy is what's a good fit? We look at a company that has gross revenues of 500,000. That's a guideline,
Yeah, that's a
500,000.
guideline. And keep in mind, this is not an all-inclusive list. So this doesn't mean this is it's not like R&D where you have certain requirements and most people don't fit into those requirements. So this is not an all-inclusive list. This is just a list of typical businesses that would probably qualify. But the real qualifying determination is, do they have enough funds to be able to fund a Roth 401k? And that's where the $500,000, gross revenue came from. With a business with 500,000 gross, they probably could afford to fund a Roth 401k to make this thing work.
Because they have to buy the initial amount of money that has to be purchased, put into this plan is 50,000.
Correct. And that's where that number come from is a business with a $500,000 gross probably could afford to drop $50,000 into a Roth 401k.
And what does that $50,000 do? What does it purchase?
So that $50,000 is used to purchase the premier shares in that private insurance company.
And that's the preferred stock, and that's the sweet spot, everybody.
There you go. And that's
Is
why
because
that
that
dividend comes
preferred
directly
stock,
over. Yeah, that's why that dividend comes directly over. That's very, very important, very critical, because those shares are owned by the Roth 401k. So when that dividend is being distributed, it's distributed to the Roth 401k.
and that's what makes this plan so great and was ingenious when people were thinking about this.
Yeah, I mean,
Now, I gotta get ready to go, so I'll let you,
I have one. I
Stefan,
just
and
have one question. It
sure.
really
yeah,
has to do with you're not only profiling these type of companies, but you're also profiling the people because if you put it in the 401k, then it's not liquid until a certain time, right? You may want age qualifications of that 401k if they're not depending on that income, right, to come out of the company and they put it in the 401k. keeping it in the 401k is what keeps it tax deferred until they qualify to take it out. So age is important and their dependency on liquidity, correct?
Agreed. I agree with that. So the closer they are to 59 and a half, the better. But keep in mind, big difference between the Roth 401k and a 401k. So we want that tax-free money versus the tax deferred money. So, because being tax deferred makes it more like an 831B where you're just kicking the can down the road. You're going to have to pay that tax somewhere down the line. In the structure that we've created, it's in a Roth 401k, meaning at 59 and a half, it's never going to be taxed again.
People are going to have to accept have the liquidity to be able to get to 59 and a half.
Agreed. They need to leave
And
it in
that's the
there.
proportion for which they will choose
But
to place in the
that's
401k, and you could always take it out and be taxed. But I mean,
agreed.
that's always,
And if you take it out before 59 and a half, there's consequences in a Roth 401k as well.
Sure.
You know, so you've
But
got
it's not much more than being taxed up front. It's probably the same.
I mean, the rules in regards to distributions, early distributions on a Roth are different than a 401k. It's not as onerous as it is with a 401k.
But they're both less onerous than normal tax.
Oh, agreed. But so here's the beauty of this whole
if I
thing.
were to incentivize it, your normal tax is A, your Roth IRA is B, and then your normal IRA is C. Both B and C are better than A.
Yeah, I mean, so here's the beauty of this whole thing. So operating company in my scenario got $1 million deduction. Okay, where else do you get that in a Roth 401k? You do not. You're stuck with the $7,000 and $8,000 limitations. This is not a contribution. This is a distribution. This is a dividend. So we're not restricted to those contribution rules. So the main operating company got $1 million deduction. And then it was dropped into the Roth. It was dropped into the private insurance company. It has whatever expenses it has, whatever is left over is a profit. And that profit is eligible to be distributed to that Roth 401k. And once it's there, it follows all the same rules of any other Roth 401k. So that owner has a fiduciary responsibility to invest that money wisely.
Yep. Hey, I'm gonna let Stefan and Stan, you guys lead the meeting because I have to get to the meeting I'm leading. So, hey, me being a financial guy, being licensed for 30 years, this is why I like this plan. And just one quick thing, like when people take an early distribution out of an IRA or 401k, which I've had some clients do, I call that 50% money because when you start looking at the penalties and you start looking at the taxes, it comes to almost 50%. So that's why I can tell you from my experience of me being a financial guy in this industry for 30 years. So I'll let Stan and Stefan lead this. And hey, it's been a great time talking to you guys.
Thanks, Sheldon. Thanks for your time.
All right. Thank you.
Hey, Stefan, can I ask a quick question?
Sure.
This is Randy. Wanted to find out, because I have a guy that's interested in doing this for his $500,000 a year company.
Sure.
Of the 50,000 that it's going to take to fund this,
Mm-hmm.
how much can you break down the cost and how much is actually going to go, which could actually flow through to the Roth after expenses?
You're typically going to have about 20% of, it's not hard and fast, but typically about 20% of the money that goes in there as premiums is going to be, so 20% less for typical expenses, the seeding fee, the setup of the entity, because we've still got a structure. So think of the entity, the private insurance company, the private reinsurance company, think of it as like a slice of an existing serial LLC. So we still need to set up that slice and do the documentation for that. So that's a first year cost. So you have about 20% of those in expenses.
Okay, so 20% of the 50,000, so that's 10,000 plus the 7,500 setup fee, right?
So that's that. So when I get that 20%, that's included.
Oh, it's in the 20%. Okay.
Yeah,
So everything's included in 20%. So okay. So 40,000 basically would be flowing through if he has no insurance costs.
right. That's to say he has no claims.
Yeah.
Yeah. And so in that scenario, 40,000 would drop into his Roth 401k. And that Roth 401k is just like any other Roth 401k. Invest it wisely with all the same rules that apply to any other Roth 401k.
That's great. And what if he gets beyond 59 and a half and he's already pulling out of his Roth and he still owns a business? As soon as that money funds or
Yep.
flows through to as
Yep.
dividends, it's immediately
Yep.
available, right?
Yep. That guy's gonna absolutely love you. He's gonna say, "Wow, I just dropped $100,000 off of my top line revenue, and it went 40, and that month that $50,000 of that went into my, or $40,000 of that went into my Roth 401." I take it back. $50,000 in your scenario. So $50,000 came off my top line, and $40,000 ended up in my Roth 401k. I was looking at a Roth 401k and I was only going to be able to do $8,000. Somehow you put $40,000 in my Roth 401k. I'm loving you. And what you're telling me is I got a deduction for $50,000, and you're telling me that Roth 401k, $40,000 is immediately distributable and not taxed at all. You're going to say, yeah, that's exactly what I'm telling you. You're already at 59 and a half. You can take that money out tax free.
Boom, mic drop.
Yeah,
Yeah,
it's huge. It's huge.
and one other
People
thing.
that people are
So
already at
liquidity,
59 and a half. You catch a
yeah.
business owner at 60, they're going to be loving you.
So I think that addresses the initial investment really well, right? Randy, that was your intention there, right? The value of the return on investment for the initial investment.
Exactly. Yes.
Yeah. I think that's a really good point. The other thing is, you're not looking for these types of companies that have bunches of different owners, or is it too onerous to manage multiple 401ks, proportional, all that stuff?
Yeah, it increases the cost, but I mean, what you got to do is, evaluate how many business. We need to do a survey and say, okay, you got 20 owners. How many of you would want to do this? 10? Okay, fine. Let's do it with the 10. The ownership structure doesn't have to mimic the original operating company. So yeah, we can do this.
So is that 50,000 each person that decides to do it?
Correct. Yeah, it's not a one-time 50 across the board.
So I think that's what gets messy in a multiple ownership type of scenario where
Right.
people are like, oh, I don't want to deal with the split.
Right. Yeah, it
And
does.
I don't want to deal with the whatever.
Yeah, it does get a little more sticky, but it's doable.
Doable, yeah. And understandable by the layman, probably lower likely, but then a person who fully owns. So the best leads are ones that are about 500,000, are close to 59 or don't have liquidity demands, right? And close to 59, don't have liquidity demands. That's it. And then those are the two, I guess.
Yeah, I mean, that's the biggest thing. I mean, it's, not a huge ownership structure. Yeah, it does get a little more sticky. And I mean, if it's an ownership structure and we're at $50,000, now you're starting to question, does this make sense? 10 owners each one of us has to have $50,000 in our Roth 401k to buy into that. Does this make sense? So you got to ask those kind of questions. When I do my feasibility study, that's the kind of things I'm asking about. Does this make sense for your company?
Yeah. Do you guys have a set of questions or criteria of the best? This is not enough, in my opinion.
Yeah. So yeah, the first thing that has to happen. So we're not asking you to really understand this fully. What we're asking you to do is to have, like that elevator pitch and just pique the interest. And the first thing that's going to happen is you're going to use the QR code that's on the materials that we would provide to you, and it's going to be set up a Calendly invitation with me. And I'm going to go through these kind of questions. I'm going to want to find out the ownership structure, what's the gross revenue, and really what I'm trying to determine is, this really makes sense for you?
Yeah, I'd rather qualify the leads with some questions.
Yep. Yeah, so I'm not really asking to go into great detail. Yeah, it would be nice to know ahead of time if you knew something about the company. I could probably give you a pretty good idea if this is going to make sense for them, but I'm going to find that out on that first phone call anyway. And if it makes sense, then the next step is we get you set up to get that actuarial study done. And now we determine what additional insurable interest do you have. Now, keep in mind that the average company is about 10% insurable interest. Some industries are going to be higher. Some industries, like construction, they're more like in the 18 to 20%. So it's even more valuable for them. And some other industries where they just have less insurable risk, maybe they're more in the 8% range rather than 10%. But the average is about 10%. So when we do our, calculations, that's what we base everything on, is a 10% additional insurable interest.
Yep.
Yes, Stefan, we have a few questions on the chat. So Ray was
Sure.
asking, is that 20% for the first year only or ongoing expense?
It does go down. The seeding fee is on an annual basis, but the first year we're setting up that entity. So some of those costs will go down after the first year. Let me just kind of.
And Shannon has, when is the business owner exit the private insurance shares?
So this is this is something, once you get them to do this the first time, especially if they're, not like right at retirement age, or even if they are at retirement age, you're going to find that these people are going to want to do this every year. Because once you showed them, like in my scenario, once you showed them how to drop $900,000 in their Roth 401k, can you guys see my calculator? Can you see my Excel file right now?
Yes.
Yeah.
All right. So this is just my following that same scenario, $10 million gross company, $1 million insurable interest. That you can follow this through and you can see the expenses, and this is meant for you. So on a $10 million company with $1 million gross revenue, the payout to the primary referring agent is $30,000. So the next level down, 1,232, next level down to referring agent 2, is another 1,232. And then we built this third level for those people that just wanted to build an agency. So they get an override on their agency. So you can see that once you get, an average company, you catch somebody in their 40s, they're going to be with you for 10, 15 years. You show them how to drop $900,000 in their Roth 401k in that first year, they're going to be with you for a long time. They're going to be calling you in January saying, how the heck do I do that again? That was wonderful. Show me how to do it again. And they can do this year after year after year. It's the same scenario. What they don't have in that second year is they don't have the initial setup cost of that setting up the entity. That's a one-time thing. So you can see this is the scenario, and you can also, I'm going to move this off my screen. If you follow this across, this is a 10-year scenario. So you can see for somebody that's been with you for 10 years, you're looking at $311,366 of the primary referring agent for that client on a lifetime. They're likely to be with you for 10 to 15 years. But this is the first year revenue. On the scenario that I gave you, $10 million gross company. And keep in mind, there is no cap to this. So there's no, it can be a $1 billion company or $100 million company. The numbers just get bigger. That's all it is. You add another zero and everything that just goes one place over. So now you're looking at 300,000 first year revenue instead of just, 30,000. So there's no cap to this. So there is a cap to 831B, but we're not an 831B, we're an 831A. So there is no cap for us. It can be a $10 million business, it could be a $100 million business, it could be a $1 billion business. It's all the same. There's no cap, there's no restrictions. And understand too, this point this out. So you'll get some clients at the end of the year, they go, I love this. I think this is wonderful, but I just don't have a cash flow. We can finance 80% of their premiums. They can pay it back over the course of a year, and the interest rate is not terrible. It's 2% over prime. They're telling you, I just can't pull this off from a cash flow standpoint. We can finance it. Go ahead, Jim.
Okay, thank you. Stefan, I have a question on this scenario. $1 million premium, if the seeding fee is 20%, that's $200,000. So how can $900,000 be dropped as a dividend into the Roth if the seeding fee alone is $200,000?
Yeah, you're right. I mean, I'm just giving you some examples. I probably should change my example, but I'm just trying to keep the numbers simple.
Okay, okay. All right, thank you.
Yeah, so that means this is the seeding fee for that first year. That's your portion. So yes. But yeah, I probably should change my scenario a little bit to make it more so it matches this. I'm just trying to keep the numbers simple.
Okay, I understand that. Thank you.
Sure.
All right. Anyone else have any questions for Stefan?
I do, if you don't mind.
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
How much is the actuary to do a study of the company for the further insurable risk?
I don't know what their fees are, but they come out of the whole seeding fee. That's paid, that's part of the process. So it's not separately, it's not something that the client pays for. It's something
Okay.
Alliance pays for.
Okay. So it's out of the 20%.
It is. Yeah.
All right. Thank you.
Yeah, and that's very important that we have that third party do that actuarial study and tell them. So it's not us making a determination what level of insurable interest that they have, nor do they have to fund 100% of it. They're let's say it's $1 million and they say, I'd rather just fund like $800,000. That's fine. The more you fund, the better deal it is, but it doesn't mean you have to fund the entire insurable interest. You can pick and choose if you really want to. Most clients don't, knowing they can finance 80% of it. And understand that even if they finance 80% of it, it's still 100% deductible.
All right. We have Lori asking, explain more how is this tax deductible expense?
So think of it as like this. So the private insurance company is a completely separate company from the main operating company. So it's just like any other insurance. So that main operating company is insuring a risk, and that risk happens to be $1 million. So they can take a deduction for $1 million. In my scenario, they can take a deduction for $1 million of insurable risk and finance it if they'd like to, because that is an expense of the business. So the business got to take $1 million reduction in their gross revenue. And that money is now sitting in that private insurance company, and that private insurance company has whatever expenses it has. And whatever's left over is the net profit. And that net profit can be distributed as a dividend to that Roth 401k. Does that answer your question? So you got to think of this as three players: the main operating company, the private insurance company, and the Roth 401k. Three players in this scenario. Each completely different. So main operating company is one company. The private insurance company is a completely separate company. And then you got the Roth 401k. Each three completely separate players. Does that answer your question?
Yeah, she's good.
Okay.
Yes, thank you.
You're welcome.
So to sum up, we're almost at the top of the hour. So the each eR3 consultant promoting this plan, if they have the clients. So Stan was saying, or Sheldon was saying, get the QR code. Is
Yeah,
that
so on
your
the
Q?
marketing, on the marketing material that we have for the frequently asked questions, the fact sheet, they all have a QR code. So if you're using that for marketing material, it's going to come to my Calendly. So all that's going to really do is set up a Calendly appointment with me. We're going to have that feasibility study. So same thing will happen here soon with the iDecide. So the end result of the iDecide is they're making an appointment with me. I go through with them and have a feasibility study. So that's just really determining, does this make sense for you?
Yeah, so we're in the process to making the what we call is interactive presentation.
Yeah, so
Um,
for those of you that don't know what an iDecide is, think of it as a completely interactive video. So the client decides how much of that they want to hear, how quickly they want to get through the video, how much detail they want. They're totally in control of that. And you get a lot of demographics, including you at the end of that video, you know exactly what part they watched and the fact that they just finished watching it. So you can literally get on the phone and say, "Hey, I noticed that you just watched that video. What'd you think?" You will be notified as soon as they watch it and what part they watched.
awesome.
Stefan and Andrew, I have a question from a consultant standpoint. How long does the process take to basically go from beginning to start until it's closed, and then how long before we get paid?
So we're looking about right now, we're looking at about 6 to 8 weeks, but we're in the process of cutting that down. So we'd like to get that time down to less than a month. That's our goal. So we're streamlining some things right now that are kind of a manual process, and we're going to turn that digital so that we can get like a survey out quicker. We can get that survey turned over quicker. So that's what we're working on now to cut that time down.
All right.
And how, let's say they close the deal, or is this going to be, I have to wait a month to get paid? Is it every week?
No,
How are
so
you going to do that?
yeah, so we're probably going to be looking at a 2 week payout cycle. So if we have the money in, we're going to pay out every 2 weeks. So once we have the money in, that goes in that cycle and gets paid out in that 2 week period of time.
Wow, that's pretty quick. I like what I hear. So how do I sign up? Do you guys have an agreement, or how do I get signed up?
Yeah, we've got an agreement that we're just about finished with, and then we'll have it out, and then everyone will just we'll have one that we're going to edit for each one. So each person will have their own agreement. It'll spell out not only this, but other other channels, if you will, or other opportunities, you will. Like we've got the FICA tips tax credit, that other things that we do that we're going to make available to you, the tax recovery, um, cost seg. There's quite a few. They're all on that agreement as well. So our payout's the same for all of them. We're putting 70% out to the grid, but we're going to offer a lot of opportunities. Not only this one, this one's very unique, but we're going to offer other opportunities to you as well.
Yeah, Jim has a question.
Sure.
Yes, Stefan, do you know if any business owner has been audited on this program yet, or is it too new for that to have happened yet?
Well, I mean, keep in mind, this is an 831A, so it's private insurance. Not to say that any private insurance hasn't been audited, but I mean, more 831Bs have been audited. That's been around. This has been around a while too, but I mean, 831Bs were seen as on their target list. So a lot more 831Bs were audited. But like I said, we spent considerable amount of time refining the things that IRS doesn't like. And even so, IRS is really considerably backed down on even 831Bs because they don't see it nearly as a threat as they once thought it was. They don't think it's as abused as what they once thought it was. So can we stop an IRS audit? No, but we can try to make sure that we're protected and our clients are protected by finding all the things the IRS does not like about an 831B and making sure that we don't have those same issues.
Okay, great, thank you.
All right. Anyone else have questions for Stefan before we adjourn today? I'll put the Stefan email on the chat.
Sure.
So any one of us have further more questions can refer email to.
Yeah, so we're looking to launch this September, the beginning of September. I think I'm not Stan. Do you know when the iDecide is supposed to be done?
I
So
was told sometime in September. So
okay, all right. So that, I mean, that's not going to hold us back. It's just going to make life easier for you because you're going to have an awesome marketing tool available to you. But that is not stopping you. Literally, you could put business through right now. So we,
yep, and I think sorry to interrupt you, but I think Mr. Jim Quinn had somebody that he was going to talk to you about the beginning of the week, correct, Mr. Quinn? I think you had the gentleman from that meat market.
Yeah, we did speak about it, but we had to reschedule. We have to reschedule the appointment for that.
right. And so just understand, I've got a client already that we're putting through. So there's clients already going through the system. It's just not as organized as I'd like it to be. We spent a considerable amount of time making sure that all the pieces are there. It's all understandable. It's all automated. I don't want to get in a situation where we don't know who we're supposed to pay, when we're supposed to pay. We spent a considerable amount of time making this streamlined as possible, making sure it's right, that it's as streamlined as we can make it before we even get involved.
Yes, Bill.
Hey, I'll be real quick. Thank you, guys. This is incredible. I was fortunate in my lifetime as I built companies to every month trying to figure out how to get rid of $20 million. That's a lot of money. Every quarter, the same thing. At the year end, $250 million. How do I get rid of it to my benefit? The regulatory laws, the Fed, the state, the labor laws, and everything else made it extremely difficult for me to get rid of money to my personal and my family's benefit. I could ride on it, I could ride in it, I could eat it, I could enjoy it, but I couldn't buy a loaf of bread with it. And so this program here allows that business owner to truly set aside funds in a super Roth, pre-taxed, or just give it to Uncle Sam, kiss it goodbye. And down the road after 59 and a half or before, a lot of people say, well, I'm not going to pay a penalty. Well, if you paid a 10% penalty, paid your taxes, but you could go ahead and double your money every 3 months like I learned how to do. Who cares about penalties and taxes, okay? And so this is a unique, and I'm Native American, thank you very much. I wish I owned a piece of the casino. But you know what we really have here? We have a casino off the reservation for business owners. This is absolutely incredible. So Stefan and Stan and Andrew and all those involved, I appreciate your effort and your insight into this program. Thank you.
You're welcome. And what I have up on the screen right now is Warren Buffett. That man loves private and captive insurance, loves it. That's how he buys the shares in all the big companies that he buys. That man absolutely gets captive insurance and gets reinsurance.
And Stefan, let me add, when I talk to Warren, he doesn't invest a dollar that's not debt. He built his entire wealth with debt, entire wealth with debt. And so did Jeff Bezos.
Right.
Jeff Bezos, when I talked to Jeff, didn't turn a dollar a profit, not a dollar a profit. The first 10 years, he invested with debt. But see, when you put money aside for a future purpose, investing with debt is using someone else's money.
Right.
And so again, this is a beautiful program. Thank you.
You're welcome.
I got a cancellation in your email that was sent out. Weird. Maybe I just typed it wrong.
So Stephan, STEPHAN .brewer, BREWER at LTAXRS.com.
Oh,
I was missing an L.
Yeah. LTAXRS.com.
It was missing what was sent in text was missing the L.
Yeah, very important. Yeah, it would kick back.
So LT, right? L?
Yeah, yes, LTAXRS.com stands for Legacy Tax Resolution Services.
All right, sorry guys.
Nobody could spell that out, so I shortened.
Thanks. Look forward to seeing the agreement.
Sure.
Yep. All right. Thank you, everybody, for your time. We don't have any, if we don't have any more questions, and yeah, have a great day.
Thank you, Andrew.
All right. Thank you, Stefan.
Bye.
Bye, guys.